So after the catastrophic last episode, when I was sure we could start applying some primer, what we realized that we need to roll up our sleeves and do things ourselves. So in this episode, we'll be working on all rust areas to prime the car for new layer of undercoating, primer and paint. So welcome to Outpost Garage. My name is Panu and today we're making car dreams come true. So this is our starting point with the undercarriage and wheel wells. Lots of dirt and many rust spots sticking out. Our car wash day revealed some new rust areas, but nothing too dramatic. And that is where we are continuing from today. The undercarriage was in part cleaned by the steam cleaner guy and in part by me. Because the steamer dude didn't do a good job, we need to attack the wheel wells and some other spots as if nothing had ever happened with power tools. And here you can see the steam cleaner was just going all wishy-washy with his steam cleaner. The mission is to get to bare metal in the wheel wells and the most obvious rust areas. So let's begin with our paint preparations and rust work. The mission is to grind off everything layer by layer in the wheel wells, identify all areas with rust, work on those findings, but without taking out parts of the undercoating that is in great condition. We also need to identify the areas that need to be welded and prepare for primer and undercoating. There are probably something between 100 and 200 small rust areas that need to be worked on. In the next episode, we are attacking the worst areas with a welding machine, so make sure to follow. So, aren't we skipping something? You might have noticed that we went from car wash to rust work. What happened to the interior and suspension? Well, I decided to show that action a bit later when it's more relevant. But now, let's attack the rust on this baby. Alright, so we have put on these very premium looking hazmat suits and we are now starting to work on the wheel wells to get everything out, get it to bare metal. And Kim has already started with the right rear one and I'm going to attack the front right one. I'll be working on this one now. And so the work begins. We are first attacking the right side wheel wells with Kim working the rear and me the front. The tools that we are using are a Milwaukee angle grinder and a battery-powered Parkside grinder from Lidl, which broke to pieces after a couple of hours. Kim has used his Milwaukee to grind his own BMW e30 M3, so this thing has seen some action. Thumbs up for the durability of this Milwaukee tool and thumbs down for the cheap Parkside tool. Scraping the undercoating is like scraping off chewing gum. It would shoot out and stick to other places. Fortunately, it would come off easily. We use different kind of heads and tips with the tools. At some point, we also included my old battery-powered drill with different heads and tips to attack smaller areas, and this worked wonderfully. We also tried a chemical solution for removing the undercoating called nitromorse, but that didn't work out. As a side note, it seems that work like this is kind of some sort of an ADHD test.
Tom, you gotta see this. Oh shoot, yes right, 911. 911.
I feel like I would stop and celebrate and do other things every 2 minutes for 5 minutes. Or is it just me? Do give a shout out in the comment section if you have similar tendencies. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in knowing which tools we used to work on the rust on this car, which worked, which didn't, there's a full segment about it later in the video. So happy Easter, it's Friday and happy birthday Jesus, and I thought I'd go this car, the surface rust spots with you through like 20-30 different spots. Today I'm here by myself finalizing the little surface rust areas. Not all have been taken care of, but I think we found all of them. And I'll show you now, this is in between, some of the spots are not finalized before we put on some primer and so on. And yeah, so we are on every surface rust spot, we are applying some anti-rust primer. Then there's going to be an epoxy primer and the 3M stuff that, you know, is the corrosion prevention stuff. So now let's go through 20-30 different spots and you'll see what kind of work we've been doing here. All right, so let's start with the rear left wheel arch. As you can see, we've removed almost all of the gooey stuff. The gray stuff is like the primer from the factory.
but I don't think we need to get all of that out. And here you can see 2 holes for a roll cage, which we need to plug. And same on the other side. Here you can see some rust. And coming down here, this is not a beautiful place. Mostly just surface stuff. Sometimes it's a bit of hard to get to, and of course I'm sure it's gone under there, but considering this car is going to be a summer car from now on, I don't think these sort of places are gonna go through. Here you can see something we haven't touched yet at all. Here under the car, here for the springs. You can see here we had to grind this out. There's just a little bit of brown stuff there, and this had to be hammered from the inside to be flat if there was some sort of something that happened here. This was a bit of a mess over here. Coming here, pretty good. Some stuff here. Coming here, yeah, no bueno. We need to support the car somehow. It needs to come here as well. Some surface rust there. Here's the other spring pad. Continuing on the other side, we added some welding spots here and there. We need to grind it down. This has been a bit of a problem. You can get a new one of these. There's like tin here, detach it and go. You need to do it from inside the car. This pipe goes inside the car and comes here. But that is not too bad. Not going to work on it now, but it can be changed later down the line. There has been this rust spot here that I just heard from a previous owner that was done under when the car was with him. Here are the same holes, but pretty nice. Of course, these have been rolled, so I need to do some work here. But those are quite difficult, but still pretty good here. Just a little bit of surface rust. And I'm of course not sure what is from the factory, what is not. The car was not made that perfect from the factory. So, and continuing, this is the front right. So here we had some a real problem. We had a hole going through here, or very rusty spots here and here. And there's now some anti-rust primer here, which makes it dark. We were just testing that out. And yeah, gonna make these a bit nicer. There's gonna be that gooey stuff, 3M stuff all over here. But yeah, this was welded and it's pretty nice here as well, and here. There's just some details to go through here and maybe grind that old stuff off. And as you can see here, someone has done rust repairs previously. Not the most beautiful way of doing it. This has been hammered into form. Same on the other side, but I guess this is an area which is very rust prone on e30s. So that's what you get with an old BMW. Some rust repairs from a previous owner there as well. I need to get rid of that rust in the towers. Like all sorts of these, like small patches with some rust here. This is quite done already. Not done, a little bit here. There's just a million spots with this sort of, as you can see. I'm just going to be going through these with different kind of electric tools. Smallest would be a Dremel. The heat shield was missing from here, which I have now ordered. It's in the country, came from the US, an original heat shield which will be attached to the engine. But there was not one here, so this has taken a beating or heat. And this was pretty nasty here. This was welded here, but really badly. There was no protection, so this had surface rust. So Kim added some more, what do you call this? So welding, and this will be flattened, made nice, will make it nicer. And of course all the protection here. But yeah, someone did a really shoddy repair here. And well, all these beams are pretty good. So this car had some sort of front impact when in Germany in the first 2 years. So this is like tin, and these are not flat here, which they are here and here. So some rust there, need to work on. Still some bit here, And we do have some sort of beeswax or something we're going to spray into all the cavities here in the car. And the front is pretty good. So Kim was working on the cables yesterday. Looks nice. But yeah, so there are all these spots that I'm going to today go through and make them a wee bit better. Like that one there. So these little spots with surface rust will be, and which are not visible, you know, when the car is put together. So I have some paint, matching paint, that I will first use a anti-rust primer and then paint to cover these works, and they will not be super beautiful. But the point is not to make sure that the rust doesn't get out of hand. And of course the car has been painted quite nicely, all the exterior bits, and there's a bumper here, a bumper in the back and everything. So it will look nice. My limits for this restoration are that make sure that doesn't stopping corrosion, of course making the car look nice, and making sure everything is mechanically sorted, new bushings, rubber hoses, lines, electrics work, everything is nice. So basically this is the only thing that I had a hard stop, that no, we're not going to sandblast the whole chassis. Someone else can down the line do that if they want, but I want everything else to be nice and make sure that the car doesn't corrode anymore.
So here I am testing a Dremel. It seems that its strength is its small size that allows me to access the smallest of areas, but that being said, there are quite a lot of areas to work on. This thing is not meant for a big project like this. The tips wear out amazingly fast and cost a fortune. Do you guys happen to know of a similar tool that would be more durable? Next up are some stone type grinding bits for the drill. These were useful in some situations, but they do tend to be so abrasive that you are easily going through metal, so be careful. The best bits seem to be these wire brush types. More on these at the end of this video. Now let's get rid of this sticker. The car was sold as new in Germany, and this sticker is in Swedish, where the car has been most of its days. So the sticker is not original and we need to repaint the engine bay, so bring in the heat gun. Let's continue by grinding out all the rust we can find. Now let's attack those pesky little surface rust areas in the engine bay. The engine bay seemed to be an easy area to work on, but ultimately we had a lot of small areas and tight bends, so it ended up being quite time consuming. Other than those two bad rust areas in the right wheel well, everything else was quite easy to work on. All right, let's work on some rust, baby. DJ, spin that shit.
All right, let's take these things off. Woo. Yeah, so check this out. All right, now I have now continued getting rid of surface rust and all the materials. Of course, there's some of the primer from the factory here, but it's fine. But it's pretty clean now. But as you can see, someone has been welding here before. This is our doing, and this is like all this here is from someone else doing it first. The inner wheel arches, like everything here, seems not beautiful but solid, so I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna grind this stuff off, but someone has put this after the fact, after the
after the factory, all this black stuff here. But the wheel arches seem pretty solid, and also even the, I don't know if these have been bent, but there's no rust or anything here. This is pretty good. Pretty good. Maybe some new 3M stuff here as well. And the towers, pretty nice. So I took everything off. You can put the primer and the undercoating there. Sweet!
Alright, time to work on the front right fender. There's some moisture has gotten here, so it's a bit surface rust. I'm going to go through this all the way around here and here, and we still have some rust, surface rust here, and the tower, and make sure that, if not all, most of the paint rust protection stuff is gone from all these little corners and nooks and crannies. While we were working on the undercarriage, we did some other little things on the side. Here we are prepping the brake calipers for sandblasting and powder coating. While I was working on the frame and filming, Kim was hard at work on the main wiring harness. This includes everything except the main engine wiring harness. These cables control all accessories like lights, door locks, wipers, HVAC, and so on. The cables were in pretty good condition, but to make sure that we wouldn't have any electrical gremlins in the future, Kim would recondition some of the grounding points and connectors. The plastics in some connectors had seen better days, so I ordered some new ones. Kim soldered these in, and grounding points were re-welded just to be on the safer side. Electrical issues can arise from these grounding endpoints breaking apart. After reconditioning the endpoints, Kim would remove the old tape, clean up the wires, and apply a new round of this Japanese super tape to make things look neat and tidy.
Alright, Kim, so you've been working on the secondary wiring harness, which is like the headlights, auxiliary things, everything inside, the windows and so on, which we are reusing and fixing if necessary. So you found some places where we needed to redo connectors and grounding.
Yeah, basically all the connectors we need to replace.
Alright.
This one is good, but
Well,
all the others, these.
All right. All the plastic clips are broken or something, and this is missing like a cover or half of what it should be. This is for the headlights, and yeah.
Then I inspect all the grounding points.
And that looks like where do you have a grounding point?
Here is one now, but it's hidden.
All right. But did you have one here?
This is one.
This is one. So it's when the ground cables come together.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Disney movie.
One is the main, and then there's a tree.
Oh, and this goes to the chassis or something,
yes.
The grounding point. All right. So, and if these are not they kind of detach and deteriorate and oxidate, and then. But
in your case, they are pretty good.
All right. But one of these here just came apart.
Yeah.
All right. But this is pretty good, and so on. And of course, the fabric tape just is like a mummy from Egypt and just turns to dust. So Kim is redoing that, as you can see here. Yeah, all right. And then you're using Japanese tape to. Are you putting this under and then this over?
This is like more like insulation.
All right, and this is for look and feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Very nice. All right, and then of course after this there's going to be a list of things to order for new connectors and bits and bobs and so on.
Here Kim is first soldering the two ends together and then using a heat gun to secure the soldering with a heat shrink tube. This type of shrink tube includes glue, which makes it watertight and better for insulation. Just remember to slip in the shrink tube before you solder the ends together.
Right, so come here, let's check out all the gear that we have so far. We have a lot of stuff here and we still need to order everything that comes to the interior of the car. I've ordered nothing, but like all the suspension. Here we have all the coolant pipes, hoses, fuel lines. It's everything suspension-wise, engine mount, lots of brackets, fasteners, throttle body, what things, a starter motor, alternator. This is for the trunk, on top of the headlights. This is a new gear shift and all the bushings for that. I actually ordered those parts like 2 years ago. I don't know why. Power steering, reservoir, fuel pump, 3 fuel filters, oil filters, sorry. This is for the differential rebuild kit or seals. We are still missing like a thermostat. I guess the old one still works, but I would like to have a new one, but they don't make those, so I'm trying to find one. New coolant reservoir tank, which is nice, looks nice. The old one is very yellow. Here we have a new fuel tank, which is not original, but seems to be very nice. And we have the special hose to connect these two from here. And then this car came with the optional extra tank, which is in the trunk. And of course, there is a line that comes from there, connects to here. And just in that one big box, we have new power steering lines. We could get those new, but for the oil cooler, these 2 lines here, I can't get them new. Oh, sorry, these 2 can't get them new, but these for the power steering pump I can get new. Also, we have here we have the original West German steering rack, but to my taste, it is quite slow. It is 4 turns, lock to lock, and it feels like you're boating or something. So I have a kit with shims, and I have ordered, I haven't picked it up yet, an e36 original, normal, not an amp steering rack, which is like 3 turns lock to lock. So I'm hoping that would be a bit nicer, but that was 700-800 euros, and if that doesn't work out, I can always swap this back. And here we have the non-standard cut and shortened from some other car, I don't know, drive shaft, which has been refurbished, repainted, not to that nice degree, but still all these are new. And this here, the joints have been remade. Continuing, we have bits and bobs here. So here you can see all the control arms, subframes, and all sorts of brackets have been powder coated, sandblasted and powder coated, and these are really nice. Of course, here you can see if there's been some rust, it doesn't look that perfect, but all the surfaces that didn't have any real rust look like new and very nice. So we have lots of these parts here. Coming here, if you have any ideas what to do with this thing, this is the fuel sending unit. I guess a new one, can't remember, was super expensive. Is there a way to rebuild this, or what would be a nice way to get this redone without putting this maybe original one back in? Leave a comment. So here we have the transmission, which we're only going to clean it, and new master slave cylinder is going to come right there. Then we're just going to put it back in here with the clutch disc. We're not going to take that off. And here we have all these refurbished parts. Of course, this wasn't painted before, but this was the only way to do it, to paint it, because it was just like sheet steel, and that's the way it looked. But for instance, these parts, these are what hold the rear bumper. They look just brand new, really nice. And this wasn't that expensive either. Yeah. Here we have parts that are going to be refurbished. Yesterday we pulled the cylinders out, or the pistons out, and cleaned this so there isn't any brake fluid, because the guy doing this didn't want that brake fluid all over the media, the sandblasting media. So these have been cleaned, and we'll go for sandblasting and painting. Question. As you can see, my car's air filter is like this, and of course I don't want to do that. I cannot seem to find a carbon fiber piece where I could have some sort of bracket here that I could slide in a paper filter. So if you have any idea how to remedy this, please let me know without buying the whole plenum and so on. One thing I thought I could do is to have some sort of maybe rubber one, and maybe attach a filter here, not a flat one, but one of those cone filters. So of course maybe then it's like turbulent air inside the engine bay, but it would look cool. It would definitely sound good because there's no anything. So the intake sound would come out nicer. But yeah, if you have any other ideas what to do, please leave a comment. Not sure what to do. All right, so here's all the suspension parts. Here we have the brand new KW suspension kit for the e30 M3, which is version 3. I don't think this one doesn't have any sort of adjustments. Maybe some, but not as much as they have like version 5, 6, 7. And this bit here, the cover or the whole metal thing here where the strut goes in, I had to send the old ones to KW, and they refurbished these and installed everything ready, and this is how it came back. And this is the classic one, which is not in KW purple and red, which I really prefer. This is much nicer. I'm not sure if this is exactly the same one that I sent, but similar as well. And yeah, so here the whole set for the KW. Some new axles from JP Group. They were a bit clicky. So, and here we have the old Quibo or Flex disc BMW original. I can't remember what the price difference was, but I went with a Miele HD here, and I actually bought 2 of them. For some reason, one came with nuts and bolts and the other one didn't. But yeah, it's a bit different looking, but here we go. And here we have a alternator. New one says Audi Volkswagen for some reason, but it should go in. And we have some bearings for front or rear, can't remember. Yeah, front or rear bearings. 2 of them. Control arm or rear subframe bushings, I think. Here we have front lower control arms in these big bags. Lem footers. Here new braided brake lines. As you can see, you saw the old ones. We'll be ditching those, and here are new ones from France. Hand brake lines. The top mounts and bearings for the front shocks, I guess. And we have some bearings, bushings, and new sway bars here. And like original style, because this one had some modified tuning racing things. So I'll be ditching those, and we have all the end links for these as well here. So suspension wise, everything is pretty much here, and I'm still waiting for 2 inner barrels for the BBS wheels, because 2 of them had been crashed or something, and they were beyond repair. So once I get those, I will take them, the brake calipers, maybe the back plates of the lights to this one place, and they will sandblast them and powder coat them, and then we'll have those back shortly. And as a little bonus, as you can see, we have lots of goodies have gone back to home. They've been refurbished, so we have heat shields, differential back plate, they have been water blasted, and the rest have been sandblasted and powder coated. And the gem of the bunch has to be these BBS wheels that were made in West Germany back in the day. I'm really happy with the progress we've made over the past days, and the mission was to prepare the car for paint and undercoating in the engine bay, under the car and wheel wells, and make the car safe and rust free so we can preserve it for the next generation. It has been amazing to realize how big and helpful the car community is. We have been receiving tips and help from car enthusiasts and professionals alike. On top of this, I have already been contacted by 3 previous owners of the car from Sweden, and they've been very helpful in figuring out the history of the car.
So how much time do you think we have spent on all of this rust work? Grinding one wheel well to bare metal takes maybe 1 to 3 hours. so about 1 day for the wheel wells. The undercarriage had less grinding but more individual spots to work through and a bit more difficult places to get to. The engine bay was the most complex area to work, but one step at a time. I would guesstimate that we've spent collectively maybe 2 to 3 weeks worth of working days on this process. If 1 week is 40 hours, then that would make it 80 to 100 hours of labor. And I think we have successfully accomplished all of our target areas. And now for the big one. How much would have this costed me if I had paid someone? At $80 an hour, maybe around 6,500 to 9,500. I could have also had the whole car sandblasted and repainted. This would have deleted the already good and water sanded exterior paint. Sandblasting, logistics, extra work, primer, undercoating, and a new round of exterior paint with water sanding. That would have probably cost me $1,500 or euros. For this to happen, we would have also needed to remove the whole interior, windows, and so on. This would only deepen the rabbit hole even further. Also, the sandblasting might make bad rust areas even worse. So this was a more gentle approach. The point was not to DIY this just to save money. There were 2 reasons. One was to do things ourselves because we wanted to, and to make sure the car is rust-free and preserved for the next generation. Someone else can sandblast the whole car one day if it needs to. But I would guess that this thing will be quite precious and it will not see rain that many times in the future, let alone the salted winter roads. So next up, I'm going to go through the tools that we've used to do the rust work and the prep work for the primer and undercoating and paint. So let's start with safety, right? Some gloves, some breathing apparatus protection because there's a lot of like metal dust and so on that you're bringing up, and if you can have some sort of suction right there, that'd be great. For painting, we will be using these, but you can use, of course, a better one instead of this paper joke. But as you see, it's very dirty here. This is a used one, so it's at least use one of these. And some eye protection is, I would recommend, but maybe something better that really kind of seals in everything. But yeah, protect yourself because there's a lot of metal dust going on. So we have had these manual brushes. We've used, these are mostly just getting dirt off maybe. Not doing like getting rid of paint or primer or anything, but getting to places and getting the first round of dirt off if there is such stuff still there. And maybe use a putty knife or whatever this is. And yeah, so for the bigger areas, let's say the wheel wells, we've used this Milwaukee. Kim has actually used this one to work on the whole chassis of the car's frame of his own e30 and 3, and this is the second one. So this Milwaukee tool really has seen some e30 work in its lifetime, and we mostly use these steel wire brush ends, which were great. And you don't have to be that careful when you're doing like undercarriage or wheel wells because the undercoating is going to go over. So if this wire brush does create a little bit of scratches on the metal, it doesn't show. But for other areas, this might be a bit too rough. But yeah, there are just different kind of ends that you can use depending on the area, so to make life a bit easier to access and so on. And with welding, we rented a TIG or MIG, some sort of welding thing for a weekend. And Kim did the welding. And to grind off the extra welding material to make it nice, he would use this sort of grinding wheel for steel, which is Milwaukee. Kim also brought in a Parkside battery powered, this type of thing that's a little stuff, so not an expensive, and that broke after 2 hours of usage. He got a new under warranty, but that hasn't come back here. But the Milwaukee thing has been very reliable. Yeah. All right, and Kim mostly used this, and when he wasn't here, I would use this on all the big areas. But for when going to smaller areas, this might be a big, you couldn't get we didn't have all sorts of ends and tips for this. So ended up using just a battery powered drill and all sorts of different bits. So for instance, one of my favorite types was this type of wire brush, and you can go like get a pretty good access, and even the very tiny one to get even better access. And for this one, you could even get a similar wire end than the Milwaukee has, like this braided one. One thing I would say at this point is that if you're taking out like paint, primer, and undercoating, the steel one works more efficiently, gets stuff more out, but this can also make scratches to the paint. And it doesn't matter that much if you're working like on a wheel well where new undercoating is applied and that kind of smooths you can't see it under that. But for the engine bay, I would try to use like copper ones or softer ones to make sure that you're just grinding out just the paint and the primer that's there and nothing else. Because if you make scratches to the metal itself, it will not even out when you prime it and paint it, and then you'll have to fill the little gaps there you've created with a harsher thing. And these were my favorites. I ended up using them, and then these like straight bits for going to small areas and where you kind of just have to go like this. So these were great, and these do run out at some point, and they're not as effective. These just go all twisty and stuff, you know. So these are like €5, $5 a piece, or even less. So at some point you should, if you're gonna do a full car, maybe have a couple of each of these. But yeah, same goes here with the copper. It's a bit softer. Then we had these like stone grinding wheels type of things, and I used these only on a couple of occasions. The good point is it's very pointy, this one, so you can go into a difficult spot, but these are so effective that they start grinding the metal quite quickly, so this will just eat out metal quite quickly, so I wouldn't use these if you really don't have to. And then we have this sandpaper type of things, which didn't use much, could have used maybe more, quite safe, but for some reason I just end up using the wired ones more. But yeah. And lastly, the flexible sanding pad from the local hardware store, which we used when since we are repainting the engine bay. There's lots of areas, most of the engine bay is just fine, so we're gonna prep the old paint to be sprayed over with this, so it kind of scratches it out, and of course we're gonna clean it up with chemicals to make sure there's nothing there. And this helps the next round of primer and paint stick better. But this makes very slight scratches to the old paint. So yeah, that's that. In the next episode, we will be fixing the worst rust areas with a welding machine. If you like this sort of content, please support the channel by hitting that like and subscribe button, and thank you for watching.